Camera's rolling.
Boom, and we're live. Welcome to Blueprint. I still haven't learned the name, but it's fine. I'll get there.
A collection of Blueprint.
It seems so fucking like...
Pretentious.
Exactly.
I know.
Just like you. My name is Chris, and with me, as always, I don't know why, there is Mr. Renars.
What up?
Stuntman extraordinaire.
A super comedian and just very good-looking man in some countries.
What do you mean? It's like in Arab countries, they like bigger women. They also probably like bigger women. And with us today, we have a guest. He's a great guest. He was handpicked by Renard, so my expectations are super low. Welcome, Gary.
Hello, guys. Thanks.
Hey, Gary, how are you today? Thank you for coming over.
I'm good, mate. I'm good. And you?
Yeah, we're fantastic. So we kind of pressed for the time. Gary has to go and do some serious business. So we're going to try to make it short and snazzy. So Gary, tell us...
Short and what?
Snazzy.
What does it mean?
It's Latvian.
Okay.
For cool. So Gary, in a couple words, if you could introduce yourself and tell what you do now and how you got to this point, like since you were a kid, what things you were doing. So you were doing high diving. What studies did you do? What did you study? Did you work? And then how did you get here to Bali now?
In 30 seconds.
Basically,
in a couple of words.
I
get it. No.
Pretty much. And then from there we can kind of go further.
Okay.
Microphone. Be close to microphone.
I'm close.
There you go, like
close.
that. All the time.
All right. Do I have to keep my hands here as well?
Pretty much. Yeah. Like this. Like high diver.
Yeah.
Alrighty. Hey, you see? Perfect form.
Here we go. So I'm Gary. Is this still...
It's good.
something
It's good.
changed?
It's you just pulled your wire. Just pull it, push it back. Just push it back. Or just wiggle it around.
No, it's gone.
That's what happened when
gone.
you buy products on Tokopedia.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. That's fine, right?
Well, I can hear you. Can you hear yourself? You can't hear yourself.
But I don't really
Just
need to.
keep going. Don't worry about it.
Okay.
It would be good that he could hear
Don't
this.
worry about it.
I hear
Just
you
do
anyway.
it. Just do it.
It's cool. All right. So thanks for that, Renars. I'm Gary. To give the quickest summary I could think of, I was a high diver growing up, competing from the age of 10 to 18.
Okay.
Studies, like I left school at 17. I'd started working full time. So my studies, like I've studied a lot beyond there, but like in terms of conventional study, that's where my studies finished.
Right. So did you graduate your high school? Did you get your A levels done?
No, I was the first year where they introduced AS
Microphone.
levels.
You see, I need to remind you all the time.
I'm here.
Not too close.
It's good. It's good. It's okay.
I was the first year where they did AS levels. So I did 1 year after GCSE and then I left.
Right.
So
You're obviously from Australia, right?
Obviously from Australia. It's from
From the
UK.
UK.
You
From
dumbass.
UK? Okay.
yeah.
I'm not good with
No
with
shit.
accents.
Many people say that to me, so I'm not offended.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
See, in your face.
So many people are idiots. In your face.
So high diving was my love, my passion growing up.
Question.
Yeah.
What is high diving?
High
Exactly.
diving. So normally I'd just call it diving, but being here in
From
Bali
high.
on a tropical island, everyone thinks of scuba diving when you say diving. So high diving is like a way to differentiate. It's jumping from anything from a springboard up to like higher platforms or cliffs.
Okay,
flipping and twisting.
so it's also the Olympic discipline, right?
Yeah.
Okay, because I thought high diving was only from cliffs and stuff.
No, I mean, it's a way of differentiating. That's cliff diving.
Okay.
So
you do both.
Now I love the cliff diving, maybe more. Or at the moment, it's all we have the opportunity for
What's
as well.
the highest have you jumped from?
About 25 meters.
Shit.
Me and Gary went to this place where this 20 meters jump.
Alingaling?
Yeah. No. That's 15. Alingaling is
Yeah.
15 highest point.
Yes.
What is the name? Uluwatu, the beach. What's the name of that beach?
Balangan.
Palangan. There's
Okay.
a
The
20
viewpoint.
meters jump. Yeah, that's where everyone get married and stuff. So
And then they jump because they're like, fuck, my life is
pretty
over.
much. No, that's so Gary.
On low tide.
Me and Gary, we come in and we just like, oh, we're gonna do some jumping, and we literally crashed the wedding, and then we are in a wedding video, so they're like standing there, and me and Gary jumping.
Yeah.
But I was like, I never jumped from 20 meters. I've done like maybe 15 highest, and he goes straight away. And I'm like, yeah, I can do this. And I went for this move which is called gainer, when you kind of slowly
Which
supposed called gainer. It's like a
Gainer?
Yeah, it's a back flip, but you go forward.
But you land with your ass because it's gain. That's a very bad joke.
Oh
I
my
apologize.
gainer. Idiot. Yeah, and so I never jumped from 20 meters, and I over-rotated and landed on my back. Exactly. But yeah, Gary knows
Ouch.
exactly what he's doing.
But like from 20
You sent
meters,
it,
do
though.
you land with your feet or with your...
Yeah, normally when
Face.
people are diving from that height upwards, normally it's feet first. Yeah, there are some
Red
people who
Bull
dive.
used to have some competitions about it, right?
Still do. I mean, the series got cancelled last year because of COVID.
Okay, yeah, of course.
They were actually, the opening event last year was going to be here in Bali. The opening event for the
shit.
season. Yeah.
Where would they be jumping?
They were going to be doing 3 different spots: Nusa Penida, Aling Aling, and one other spot. I forget.
Right. Alingaling is perfect. Like that 15-meter jump is really
So,
nice.
for the people not from Bali, or for the people that don't know what the fuck Alingaling is one of the many waterfalls in Bali, but there are 3 jumping spots from 5 meters, 10 meters, and 15 meters.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah.
And better than that, where the actual Aling Aling is, further along the river,
Yes.
that's where the big waterfall is, and that has a jump up to 35 meters.
We never went to that one. I would not
So
jump
Red
35.
Bull would have done that.
Yeah, that they would have been jumping from there.
35.
The platform would have been 27,
Okay.
but
Jesus Christ.
Damn.
That's crazy.
I hope to jump there one day.
And when
but
you
need
raised
to-
your hand, I saw you have a tattoo. No, on the bicep.
here.
Is a diving tattoo?
Ah, no.
David.
Think. Look at
Here
it.
we
Look
go.
at it. Show him.
It's like a circus.
Show him the whole thing. We can't see there.
Yeah, it's like the circus thingy, like Batman and Robin.
No. Trapeze. That's what it's called.
Yeah.
Yeah. But you got it right. Circus thingy. But so many people have no idea what the hell it is, right?
Yeah,
When I saw
9 out of 10 people cannot tell
Really?
what it is.
Yeah, when I saw it
is
straight
a
away, I said what it
dragonfly?
is.
And
Yeah.
when I said Batman and Robin, is because when Batman adopted Robin, he was doing trapeze.
He was in trapeze, yeah. In circus, yeah, he was working in
See?
circus.
I'm smart.
I didn't know that.
You know,
Uh-huh.
nerd. Batman and Robin.
Okay,
High diving.
so basically you had the first part of your life, which was being an athlete and a high diver. And how old are you now?
Now I'm 37.
I'm the youngest here.
Yeah.
Fuck you.
Me and Gary were pretty much the
I
same.
look like your father, but it's fine.
You're actually
And-
your
and I-
mother.
Yeah, and I actually weighed like both of you combined. And what about the second part of your life? After you said, you know what, I'm not going to be an athlete anymore. What have you been up to?
So, yeah, I guess there's many parts of my life, but I quit diving at 18. I stopped competing. I'd started working full time, and I was 18. I wanted to start doing other stuff, going out. I didn't like
Pussy.
training Friday nights. I mean,
That's what happened.
At that age, yeah, there's many distractions. So I chose to stop competing. My life after that, like I worked in finance for 6 years, like big corporations. Then I moved into small business for advertising and marketing. I worked in tech and media. So that's kind of my career: finance, advertising, tech, media. Was my career.
Was until
I took a long sabbatical in the grips of cocaine and alcohol addiction.
Okay.
Yeah.
How long was that sabbatical?
2 years roughly I wasn't working. Yeah.
Okay, so but when did you start with cocaine and alcohol?
Cocaine started at 21. Before that, like I'd say, an addictive weed smoker from the age of like 14.
Okay.
I was smoking weed every day, selling weed. So even in my diving career, like I was smoking a lot of weed. But when other people, like my friends, would start doing other drugs, cocaine, ecstasy, I wasn't drawn to it. I was happy. I just smoked my weed. I drink some drinks in the park, that kind of stuff, but nothing harder. Then I gave up diving at 18. I'm going out more, and when I was 21, like I now see it as no surprise that I took that stimulation, that identity, the focus of my diving away.
Because also diving is a pretty high adrenaline sport. So you get addicted to that feeling, I guess.
This is the thing I now know. Like you picked up on that straight away. It took me some years to get the awareness of it, but in recovery now I can see that from the age of 10, 5, 6, 7 days a week, I was getting massive doses of dopamine, adrenaline.
Yeah.
Like that was my buzz. And also like the thrill of competing, preparing for a competition, being focused on that preparation, the sense of identity as a diver. And then when all of that stuff's gone, you know, I didn't realize it at the time, but I'd start to look for
Was there any
something else.
specific reason why you quit at 18? Why you didn't continue?
I'd made the decision at 17. So you have age groups, which is up to 18, and you have seniors. And I was competing in age groups and seniors from about 15. And I made the decision around the age of 17 that I'd finish age groups and then I'd call it.
Which level did you achieve on diving?
Like I dived internationally. I did competitions in like Belgium, Holland, Germany, South Africa. Like
nice.
Yeah.
And
cool.
so you said that you started this spiral of drugs. When did you say that's enough?
I was 33.
Okay, so not that long ago.
4 years now. Yeah.
So these past 4 years,
No drink, no drugs.
sober.
Yeah.
Have you ever tried? Well, I've seen you drink alcohol, but have you ever tried cocaine?
Cocaine, never. I never tried cocaine, and so part of me thinks like I do want to try just to know how it feels. But because I worked in clubs and I told to Gary that as well, like so many times you have plates of like lines and everyone is doing it, but I never did it. But I always enjoyed to have some weed. I think weed, in my opinion, alcohol is way worse drug than weed. That is what I think.
Tell this to the Indonesian government.
Exactly. And I tried E and G. I don't remember what were the names on those things. Couple times. What are they called?
Some
PG,
letters.
whatever.
Just throwing out
Shit.
random.
I tried F and M.
What about you? You done weed or no? You enjoy weed, but not here, obviously.
I started, like, the first time I smoked weed, I was probably like 30. Like, I started super late.
Wow. That's very late.
Started super late. I did some. Actually, my mother is watching, so I never did cocaine. Not that much. I've probably done it less than 10 times in my life when I was living in Iceland. And then I've done some psilocybin,
Right.
which is mushroom, ayahuasca, and that kind of stuff.
okay.
Which, in my opinion, is a little bit different than drugs. Because the goal is not to get high, or at least a different kind of
In
high.
conventional sense.
Yeah.
And it depends on the intention.
Absolutely.
With that stuff.
Actually, this is one of the things I love. So the first time I tried ayahuasca, which was in Italy, because in Italy it's not illegal. It's not legal, but it's not illegal.
Right.
So it was the first time. And there was also a little guy. Again, I was already like 28, 29. And there was this 18-year-old guy, and the shaman, which came from South America, asked, okay, what are your intentions? And so I told mine, blah, blah, blah. And this little kid said, well, I tried every drug. I want to try just another one because they say this is the most powerful hallucinogenic drug. And he felt nothing. I was so happy. Like, he's almost like the drug said, fuck you. He felt nothing at all. And that shit was expensive.
Interesting.
And he was so angry. And to me, that was a life-changing experience. But let's talk about the other side of drugs, you know, because that's, I feel like, a problem that many people have, what you just said, Renars. Which I can understand because I felt the same, and I was lucky not to get too addicted to it. And I was like, whatever, I'm not gonna do it. But what you said is like, I want to try just once. And That can be a very dangerous way of thinking, though.
Yeah, but then if you look at this in like about anything in your life, then you're gonna end up not doing things. You know, it's like, but how does it feel? How does it feel?
True. But the fact is that I think that, especially this happens with men, we feel we're stronger than what we actually are. Like, I know people that said, yeah, you know, I want to try heroin just once because I know I'm not gonna get addicted. I was like, oof, be fucking careful.
Yeah, I guess that's...
The thing, like, I don't preach to people drugs are bad, don't do drugs, right? But my experience was that me and several people I know became addicted to drugs and alcohol. Many others didn't. You know, they tried it, they partied a lot, they might go on 4-day bender weekenders and then not touch any drugs for 4 or 5 months and then do it again. So I don't preach don't do drugs, but it's about having the awareness. Like for you, you'd never done cocaine before. You don't know how you're going to respond to it. You don't know what events are going to come up in your life as you go along that might go, I remember when I took cocaine, it escaped me from these senses of feelings.
Right.
And your brain will remember that. You might not consciously know it, but, you know, so if you never take cocaine, you're never going to be addicted to cocaine.
Right.
If you try it, maybe you will, maybe you won't.
I think there's 2 factors. One is certainly age. I think that, like, you at 18 years old, you're probably have more chances to become addicted because you're not completely formed as a person. Don't you think so?
It's about that frontal lobe, what Joe Rogan is talking about. So also when they talk about smoking weed, they say, yes, weed is okay, but you should start it from like 27. That's when your frontal lobe has been formed. Yeah. And like you can, I don't know what is the science behind it, but there's certain age to try that. So before that is very dangerous. Okay. And also talking about things like, my father was alcoholic, right? So I grew up in a household of terrifying events in a sense of my father was just not my father. It was crazy. You know, mom would be screaming and all that kind of shit. So whenever someone talks about, oh, let's have another drink, I always have these kind of things in the back of my mind. So, and it's because of that, even when I drink, I always know when to stop. You know, I always kind of, this is the break, this is done. With weed, it's like, oh, have another talk. No, I think I'm done, you know. And having that awareness, as you mentioned before, self-awareness and like having that control. And it's like almost like lottery. Some people have that in their gut or in their bodies that they can do this, and some people don't. And it's almost like playing, is it going to be me who's going to get addicted, or am I going to be strong enough?
I mean, some people are more like kind of compulsive naturally with different things.
Yeah.
But I say there's not many people who could sit there and you can't guarantee that you're not going to end up getting addicted. Yeah. Like if something happens to you in the future, like you love exercise, you love training, you love adrenaline, you love all your sports. If that was completely taken away from you, some massively depressing events happened in your life, etc., and you have this awareness that this certain drug can help you to escape from that, then if the pain gets too deep, you might start leaning on that drug. And
that's
then if
a great
you fall
point.
into
That's
that
a really
pattern,
great point. Nice one.
Yeah. So
also with cocaine is weird because there's a lot of high functioning addicts with cocaine. Yeah. Like there's people that are very, they get very wealthy and they use cocaine also to be more productive in a way.
For performance.
Yeah.
I mean, my experience was that, like, when I first started taking cocaine, it was great. It's like, I'm out in the party, this is good, this feels great.
But like, also working-wise, like, if you're in sales, I had a lot of colleagues in sales, very good salesmen, that you take cocaine and you start selling like a motherfucker.
And I would have been at a stage where it was helpful. And then I got to the stage where I would take the cocaine because I couldn't not take the cocaine, but I would be terrified to pick that phone up. So, like, the effect of the drug starts to shift over time. That was my experience.
Anyway. So, what made you say, okay, I need to make a change?
I'd been saying it for a long time, for I think like most of that 2-year period that I wasn't working. In fact, long before that.
And were you in Bali or were you still in the UK?
I was in the UK. The first year and a half of my recovery was in London.
Okay.
And then I had about 2.5 years.
Were you actually in rehab, or did you?
I went into rehab.
How long did you stay in rehab?
Just under 6 weeks. I was in treatment.
Just under 6 weeks.
Yeah.
And that was in London.
In Kent, just outside.
Oh, okay.
And like, because many people try rehab, and did you, the first time you tried, you went clean, or it was a process?
Yeah, but I mean, I'd been trying to get sober for a long time before that, a long time, and I was choosing to be in rehab myself. Like, I used the last bit of my money to go to rehab, and I wanted to be there. So I used the last bit of my money to be there. I desperately wanted to be there. I was praying for a solution, but I was still smuggling cocaine into rehab and using coke whilst I was there.
Shit.
So there's that can give a little insight into the insanity of addiction. I paid with my own money to go to rehab.
Insanity of addiction, man. It's one thing. What I want to ask you: how much does it cost, like, for 6 weeks to go to rehab?
I mean, it depends on the program that you're in. I was very fortunate at the time that there was like a budget option offered at this otherwise more expensive treatment centre. So it cost me about £6,000 sterling.
£6,000.
That's as cheap as it gets.
Which is very expensive.
That is very expensive.
It's a lot of money, yeah.
For many people, is a lot of money.
Is there any kind of help for people who can't afford that?
There is, yeah. I mean, for sure. Like, I'd been going to local drug and alcohol services before that. I had a key worker. I won't comment on how useful that actually was. I mean, I was bullshitting a lot as well when I was going in there. It happened to be a few doors down from a dealer's house. So I'd be sitting there thinking, yeah, I'm going to do all this stuff you're telling me starting tomorrow. Walk out and go and score.
Wow.
But yeah, that was free. There's fellowships, Alcoholics Anonymous, Cocaine Anonymous, Narcotics Anonymous. Anyone can walk into those meetings. No one needs to be alone. It's free. You can rock in. There's a program in there. There's a lot. Now,
right, but they would not work as well as rehab.
Rehab, the blessing of rehab is that you get taken away from the environment. Risks are removed. I mean, you know, you can still be tricky and potentially smuggle stuff in, but you're surrounded, you're totally immersed in a recovery experience. All of your peers are there. The conversations going on are about recovery, about life, about coming to terms with things. You're with a group of people who are at that same stage of like accepting their situation and starting to build their path forward. And you know, whilst you're there, you'll get to start to make a lot of inroads on like what is the psychological underpinnings of your addiction, which are different for everybody. It could be trauma, it could be you just 100%. Are not satisfied with a normal experience of life. You always need to be in this altered state. It can be different for many people, but it's about getting to the bottom of that. And you'll only begin that in rehab. You could stay in rehab for 12 months and you're not going to have all the answers to that stuff. There's stuff that I worked out in the last 12 months about myself that I didn't know before.
Because also, once you go back to reality, that's when the real struggle starts, I guess.
So that's what I'm working on now.
And that's what we're going to talk about in the next section.
Okay, so we'll do that.
So I wanted to start asking you one thing. We talk about addiction and rehab and about how rehab helps you because it takes you away from your environment. Was the choice to move to Bali also dictated by the fact that here drugs are so illegal that it's more difficult to get them?
No, we came to Bali to open a rehab.
Oh, that's amazing.
So yeah, that was the reason.
You said we.
Yeah, there were. I met the founder of the rehab in a recovery meeting in London. We became friends, and I'd been working for the group of treatment centres where I had treatment. I'd been working for across their three centres.
In the UK, all of them.
In the UK,
all right.
Yeah. I became friends with Howard. There was a plan to come out here and open a rehab, and I joined that team of directors to come out here and
That's
and
amazing. Did you already open or is in the process?
Yeah, we did. We opened in January 2019.
Boom.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Nice.
And what is it called?
It's called Bali Beginnings.
I like it.
Yeah.
Good name. Better than ours. We should steal that name for a podcast.
Bali Beginnings.
Podcast beginnings.
Exactly. A collection of beginnings.
Beginnings.
So in your rehab center, how many people you host? How does it work?
So the center's closed right now because of COVID and most clients travel in from abroad for treatment.
Okay, so that was another question I was going to ask you. So is mostly expats or people from abroad as opposed to locals?
There's two parts to the business. There's the ISN, the charity part of the business, and the PMA, which is the private clinic. So the ISN supports locals. We talk in schools, provide therapy for locals. And then the private clinic is,
of course,
it's a private clinic. So
I was so shocked to learn, I read the news that in Bali, the number one drug is crystal meth.
I was just about to talk about that, and I wanted to see and check with Gary. Is that truth? Is that what's going on in Indonesia?
Most of the Asia Pacific region is like that. Australia, the crystal meth problem there is insane.
That's crazy.
They have a lot of RVs and they can just go in a desert and cook it.
The thing is, it's hard.
What? You saying I should stop watching Breaking Bad? Fuck you. It's an amazing film.
No, but your point's right.
It's not a film, it's a serious motherfucker.
Oh, okay. Film series.
Your point's right, though. It's difficult to smuggle drugs into Australia and parts of Southeast Asia. Like the penalties are super high.
So they just make their own
crystal meth. They can manufacture it. So,
right. And what is the second and third drug in Indonesia, and also like the areas, like so for example Bali comparingly with the rest of Indonesia, like Jakarta for example.
Jakarta there'll probably be more cocaine.
Yeah,
because it's all financial district cities.
Exactly.
Same in Australia. Sydney is like cocaine capital.
Do you know the story behind the weed? Why is it they're so strict for weed? I mean, they are strict for coke as well, I presume, and all the other drugs. It's not just weed.
They're no more strict for weed than other.
Oh, okay.
They're just strict with every drug.
Just strict with every drug. And so the mushrooms, as I know, before they were legal, so they're not legal anymore. No. What is the deal with that?
They were recently criminalized here, I believe.
Yeah,
but
that's what I heard. It's complicated because that's the thing, how you can procure it. Like mushroom, they grow naturally in Bali. They grow naturally in the Gilis. So it's much more difficult to stop because you can just go in a field, you pick them up, and there you have it.
Mm-hmm. You just have to know which ones are the right mushrooms. That's it, isn't it?
But once you know, that's it. It's very easy.
Yeah.
And I had a question, I forgot. What? I got lost in your blue eyes.
Oh, baby.
Oh, you also have blue. Yeah, greenish blue eyes. So
that's where we just went. We don't have much time. We have to hurry with talking the important stuff. You have blue eyes.
Exactly.
That's good stuff. So what are the biggest challenges for you, Gary, right now with setting up the business and how do you do this?
So the rehab, like I say, I came as part of a team to launch that rehab.
How big is the team?
We were like nearly 25 strong in the end. Like there was me, our clinical director, and Josie, who ran the operations. Dr. Terry was the clinical director, but then with the whole team, like all of the clinical team, the operational team, we were like nearly 25 strong for 6 clients. So you can imagine, and this is how we're able to do it here. To have a staff to client ratio of that kind and still be able to provide the program at the price that we did is like unheard of. If that was in the UK, Australia, the States, the cost will be enormous.
Yeah, exactly. Wow.
Yeah. Right. So the program is for people who just get out of rehab, right? Or not only.
There's the reason why Renaz is saying that. So I've stepped away from Bali Beginnings now. Okay. I'm not part of the plan to reopen the rehab, which it will reopen. But I've stepped away from that because in my time in recovery, my time working across different treatment centres, and the time running Bali Beginnings, me and Terry, we used to speak all the time. How can we improve the support for people after they get back home? And we used to look at all the different options. I mean, we ran a weekly aftercare group on Skype that any past clients can get onto and connect and share how they're getting on. But we were aware that more ideally would be available to them. But you're juggling the resources. You're managing a house full of clients that you're treating there and then, and you've got an ever-growing list of clients who are leaving the treatment centre. So, long story short, during the COVID slowdown last year, I was thinking about what do I really want to do, and I was thinking about this question again, and the answer seems obvious now, but a dedicated service that exclusively helps people when they get back home from rehab needs to exist.
Yes.
And because if people leave a rehab program and they maybe connect with a group recovery coaching program, some of those people are just they're on day one of sobriety. Someone who's been in rehab, they've already learned certain stuff. They've already come to understand certain stuff. So their awareness and their understanding's at a different level to somebody who's I want to get sober today.
Yeah.
So it doesn't make sense for them to all be in a group together. Don't get me wrong, it can be helpful for them to be in a group together, but to actually provide a program that is specifically suited to the stage that somebody is at walking out of rehab.
Okay, can you be a little bit more specific? So what does this program entails?
So the way the program is called Recovery Quest.
And had a great name.
Even better. That one is better than ours.
We should have asked. We should have asked them to.
We should ask. Do you have any ideas?
So Recovery Quest is going to be launching in the next 4 to 6 weeks. We're going to have the first tribe come in into the
first tribe.
Yeah. See, when people finish rehab, rehab is super important. It does a fantastic job. And it's very necessary for a lot of people. Like you touched on, some people, they're not able to just walk into the rooms of AA or somewhere like that and stay committed. They've got too much other stuff going on in their life. In the same way, many people who come out of rehab and they have a plan of what they're going to do, there's too much stuff that comes up. They get back in their own environment, there's demands from the family, they're going back to work, their boss does their head in, whatever it might be.
Yeah, but also environment, the friends who might be still using and deal or whatever. So that is the biggest problem.
It is a huge problem, especially, or your partner. You might get home and your partner's still drinking or your partner's still using, and you've somehow got to stay sober. So there's all of these different factors that will be affecting somebody after they leave.
So the tribe is going to come in, and what's going to happen with the tribe?
Everything's online.
Okay.
We have a program, a pre-course program.
Okay.
So that's to help the clients to activate their local support, whatever they're going to be doing when they get home. There's the local support activation period, looking at their recovery plan, what are they specifically as an individual planning to do for their own recovery to keep growing after they've left. And then once the actual course gets started, there's 8 different weekly modules, and we look at 8 different areas of well-being in that time. There's a thing called Recovery Capital, which is the internal and external resources that somebody's got available to support them in their recovery. And so what we do every week, whilst they've learnt wonderful theory and they've got some good understanding about themselves, hopefully from their experience in rehab, now they get home and it's week 1, we look at this topic, and there's tasks, there's homework and challenges for them to go and do that week. So the recovery capital that they have available to themselves in that week, they increase in that area. The next week we move on to the next section and we increase.
So it's 8 weeks program.
Yeah.
That's amazing, because that's the thing. When you get out of the rehab, this way you're not left alone, but you still have a support system around you. That's great.
Exactly. What is the data in you probably would know about United Kingdom more, regarding addicts and drugs in general, and do you think it really changed now since the COVID as well? Did it get worse? Did it get better?
I mean, COVID's been terrible for people's mental health, and if somebody's partial to drugs, then they're probably using more drugs.
Yeah, because it raised the level of depression,
anxiety, all that stuff.
Depression, suicide, addiction.
But so,
divorces.
What do you think before COVID was happening? So, when you were using at the time, and how did you see, is it getting worse or is it getting better? Is it getting less people doing drugs, or they're changing drugs? What is more popular? Is it still coke? Is it just weed?
That's an interesting question. I mean, there's always like the new drugs coming through, like MCAT and different kind of chemically formed drugs. It's like a plant food that at one point there was a massive problem. People, and it was sending people insane, people jumping out windows. And
oh, wow.
Like, yeah. Shit. But there's always chemically created drugs which are coming through, and because often they're legal highs, because until they get made illegal, they're legal.
Right.
So that's happening. I think in terms of like culturally, there's definitely like for me coming through school, it was like it's cool to be a rebel, it's cool to smoke, it's cool to bunk off school. I think there is a shift to a more kind of aware generation coming through. But not everybody. Like some people in the generations now are coming through with more awareness. Others are still coming through and probably more crazy than they were in my generation.
My question is this: so, because obviously your program, which I think would be super useful, is made in order to help people that just went through. What's the name? Rehab, and not to fall back into the whole habits or not to start doing drugs again. Is a high percentage of people that do rehab and then they fall back and they start doing drugs again. How?
Yeah. So we just did a survey of people from around the world. Recently we did a survey asking them how their experience was, what they wish they'd known before they left rehab, what surprised them the most when they got home from rehab, and questions like this, so we could make sure that we were putting the best stuff into the program for them. And 60% of people, we asked the question, did you relapse after rehab?
Yeah, 60% said yes.
60% of people said yes. Fuck. And we also asked the question, how many times have you been to rehab? And we had like 1, 2, 5 plus.
Wow.
And I think it was like, there were a lot of people who've been to rehab more than 5 times.
Shit.
More than 5 times. That's a lot of £6,000 multiplied by 5 and 6.
You're an asshole.
It's a lot of money.
So ideally, what will make you happy? How much would you like to reduce the number? Of course, the number is never going to be 0. Mm-hmm. So some of your clients will relapse because that's just a numbers game. Mm-hmm. But so from 60%, hopefully, to which number do you think through your program, you're going to be able to reduce it?
So there's 2 phases to it. There's the period when they're in the program with us. They're connected with the tribe the whole time. They're doing a workshop every week. They're connecting for a Q&A session every week. They're having a coaching session. Plus they're doing whatever else they're doing for their recovery outside of that and being supported to do that. So it's not going to be 100%, but my aim and my hope is that as close to 100% as possible of the people who engage with the program and they're showing up to do it remain sober through that 8 weeks. Then the next thing that we're shifting is every week we're increasing their recovery capital in each of these 8 different areas. So therefore, they're going to have a much higher chance. So then it becomes an
ongoing program.
Yeah.
Okay.
So thereafter, I mean, recovery is always an ongoing program.
Yeah.
Whatever path you're going down for it, it's an ongoing journey. But they will literally have more recovery capital internally and externally in 8 different areas at the end of that 8-week program. So it stands to reason that a much higher percentage.
Is this something what you get, maybe seen and heard and been done different in other countries, like let's say in States, or is anyone already doing something like what you are doing?
Not the way that we're doing it. No. Everything's much more clinical. And here's the thing, like most people, they spend whatever period of time they spend in rehab, and then they're like, I want to get back to my life. I want to go and start my life again. Like I've had this disastrous experience of life until I went into rehab. I've put my work in there. Now I want to start getting back to normal life.
Right.
But we can't, there's a saying, if you put your recovery first, everything you put second is going to be okay. And I think it's very valid. And so
that's an interesting concept.
Say it again.
If you put your recovery first, if you put your recovery first, everything you put second is going to be okay.
Right.
And then on the flip side, anything you put before your recovery, you're going to lose. So if you come out of rehab and you don't want to go and engage in whatever your continued support path is, because maybe you feel guilty and you want to be there spending all of your time with your family, and you don't want to get to the evening and say, no, actually, I'm going to this meeting. So you put your family before your recovery, you're going to end up losing them. Because if you're not putting your recovery first, you're probably going to relapse, and then, you know, what's going to happen with your family?
That is so complicated. And for people who struggle with addiction, it's just like, I feel so sorry for these guys.
But you know what? I was having a conversation today, and I feel blessed to be a drug addict. Like, I truly do. Because there's lots of people who struggle with like how we think, how we feel, how we react, how we respond, this pressure that we can put on ourselves, the perceived pressure that we feel from everybody else. Like on different levels, it's not just drug addicts and alcoholics. Like we all have these challenges, right?
Yeah.
Fuck yeah.
And
there's no doubt about that.
The thing is that many people, that never gets painful or uncomfortable enough to force you to go and invest yourself 110% in a solution to those issues as to how you think, feel, react and respond. You destroy your life like I did and like become effectively homeless, lose everything you've got, like drop out from your career for 2 years, push all of your family away. You do that to yourself through drink and drugs, you're forced to go find a solution. And the solution is not taking drugs or not drinking alcohol.
You hit the
It's all of that other stuff that I just mentioned. How do I think, feel, react, respond?
You hit the rock bottom. But I think also one of the alternatives could be like when I moved to Canada, I had no money and I slept on the floor, and I did door-to-door sales, thinking I have this master's degree and I had all these things back home. But I was like, I need to get my shit together and I need to figure out how to survive. So I'm getting really out of my comfort zone. I don't know if you can really compare with that, but I think people should be getting out of their comfort zones and thinking from different perspective more often than they do.
Yeah, in life in general.
Yeah, but that's not the point. I mean, you stepped out of I hate saying stepped out of the comfort zone. It's so coachy. I fucking hate it. But you stepped out of your comfort zone. What he's saying is that he was forced to do it, so he had no other choice, as in many people that luckily don't hit rock bottom, actually, because they don't hit rock bottom, they just coast through life. Mm-hmm. And that's the problem. So actually hitting rock bottom in your case for sure is a blessing in disguise, because you turn your life around completely and now you're a much better place, as opposed to just coasting life as many people unfortunately do.
Yeah, and a better place than I would have been if there was no addiction in the first place.
So you're saying we should do drugs? But how do I hit rock bottom, Chris?
You just did right now with that sentence. You hit rock bottom. I'm looking for a new co-host, by the way. If anyone is interested, just send me a message. It's okay. All right, and after this very intelligent comment from Renard,
how much time do we have?
We are out of time, so this was a very interesting conversation, and I would love to have you back down the road, especially after your program starts, so you can tell us about the results, maybe.
And the progress, yeah, that would be
tribe is having, because of course this is a very not only interesting but important topic to talk about. Yeah, I promise I'll put a muzzle on Renard's.
Because usually I have to put a muzzle on him.
Exactly, it's the first time I behave.
This time I got creative. But also, like, could you give us a little bit of kind of a to tell to people, to young, maybe especially young people or anyone who's struggling with addiction and not facing the music and like trying to do something about it. Mm-hmm. So what would be
facing the music?
That is what it is. That's the saying. Facing what is going on.
Have you ever heard this say?
I have.
Okay.
Oh, shut up! You see, he took my side. Have I?
Definitely myself.
But what could you suggest to people who and it's because some people, like, they're very functional addicts, right? They can still work and do things and be part of the family and everything, but they continue that life. And some people struggle.
That's the longest question I've ever heard.
that is the long ass question. So
I think I know where you're heading.
Yeah. What would you suggest to those people to do? That's it.
So yeah, like you said, there are some people, like for some people, they have become entirely dysfunctional as a result of drugs and alcohol, and then they're eventually going to be more likely to be pushed to go find a solution, which, you know, you might not stumble into immediately. I tried many things before I actually surrendered and went to rehab, which, you know, maybe we can touch on in the next episode if you'd like to. But the people who are functioning addicts and alcoholics, they're in a difficult spot because, like I said, my life got destroyed.
Yeah, they are until they're not, right?
And that's what I was about to say. It's progressive. Alcoholism and addiction is progressive.
Yeah, when they start as a social drinker, like they say, oh, I'm a social drinker. That eventually can, depending on what kind of person you are, depending how addictive you are, it can actually get to being more of addiction, right?
Yeah, and even if you're like a full-blown cocaine addict, but you're functioning and you're working, like you got your corporate job and you're working like high power, full power, it's not going to stay like that. It's addiction and alcoholism is a progressive illness.
It's a time bomb.
Yeah, it's a matter of time until that starts creating more problems in your life, more pain, and then, you know, it's a vicious circle. It's like more pain, more need to escape, more pain, more need to escape.
Recovery Quest.
Yes,
Recovery Quest. If you are in need and if you are having trouble with addiction, ask for help. This is a great way to keep yourself in check after you do rehab. We didn't do not one single broski. We weren't connected at all.
Today we because it was a very serious topic, man.
Let's do a broski.
It was like
So thank you very much, Renars. Thank you very much, especially Gary. That was a pleasure having you. I was surprised because Renars chose you, and I was like, it's gonna be shit. But actually, for the first time, I have to. Wow, good job, Renars.
Yeah, it was a broski.
Okay,
thank you, guys. I'd just like to quickly say, if
absolutely,
I can,
absolutely.
Because Renard's asked the question in case anybody is watching, who has a.
There's gonna be about 5 people, yeah.
Like someone who has a problem with drinking drugs. Yeah, if you're going into rehab, then when you leave rehab or before you leave rehab, you can connect with Recovery Quest, and like it's going to be incredible for sure,
right,
for the reasons that we spoke about. But for anybody who's, you know, looking for a solution and that you don't have rehab arranged, then reach out to somebody. Like, there was so long that I knew I had a problem, I knew the destruction it was causing, but I didn't talk to anybody about it. And as soon as I told another person, then it became more real. I had to start moving closer to doing something about it. And then, you know, there are fellowships: Alcoholics Anonymous, Narcotics Anonymous, Cocaine Anonymous, there's Crystal Meth Anonymous, there's everything anonymous. Like, whatever your thing is, then you can Google it. There'll be a meeting not far from you. You can go there. There's local drug and alcohol services. You may know somebody who's dealt with mental health or addiction or alcoholism problems. Go speak to somebody, and, you know, you can start to find your path from there. There's so much that I could say, like, it's a massive topic.
Yeah, that's why we're going to have you another time.
Just as a snapshot, if somebody is struggling, or even like contact me. Like, Recovery Quest is for people coming out of rehab, but as part of my own recovery, I'll help anyone who's struggling. So, like, you can put my phone number on this, you can, however.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's amazing. We're becoming a serious podcast.
Yeah.
Can't believe it.
We're definitely going to put your contacts on the YouTube video and everything, so... Awesome. Thank you, Gary, so much for coming over. I know you're very busy. You have important stuff, and you stop pointing stuff.
I'm pointing. Remember to get, I always give advice, eat your vegetables, sleep 8 hours a day.
And do jiu-jitsu.
Thank you very much, Gary. It was a pleasure.
Awesome, buddy. Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.